It's the first major domino to fall in NBA free agency, as Fred VanVleet has rejected his player option and will thus become a free agent on July 1st. So, in today's video, we're going to discuss what the Raptors have to do to ensure Fred VanVleet isn't the latest championship roster piece to leave for nothing in free agency. Let's get into it. Welcome everybody to Amateur Hour Sports. This is a YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content in videos, live streams, and shorts. If you like what you see from today's video and you want to see more content just like it, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You can help me on my road to 15,000 subscribers, and with the NBA draft about a week and a half away, there's going to be tons of uploads coming out, so make sure you have that notification bell turned on so you never miss out on any of the videos. The Toronto Raptors won a championship in 2019, and we just saw the Denver Nuggets win their own championship, but it really feels as though the roster constructions were a little bit similar, but the Raptors had a little bit of differences in the way they constructed their roster. They had to lose a lot of future draft picks to make it happen, and they had to lose a franchise player to bring in the superstar player in Kawhi Leonard that put them over the top. And a lot of times for teams, especially in these smaller markets when it comes to free agency, like the Toronto Raptors, Toronto is a big market, but it just still remains not a very attractive destination for whatever reason for NBA free agents. So it's difficult to build up that roster and retain all that talent. In the process of building up a championship roster, you lose key players to trades, you lose key draft picks for your future to bring in talent, and you really invest a lot of money into these big contracts. And when it happens with a team like the Toronto Raptors in 2019, a lot of the key players within that team were on rookie contracts. Like Siakam was on his rookie contract. Fred VanVleet was on his rookie contract. So as these players get better, they become more expensive. You can't keep the older players on a lot of money, and you end up losing a lot of players to free agency. And for this Raptors championship team, it's been a pretty poor mishandling of assets from the front office, coupled with the fact that you're naturally going to lose players. Marc Gasol moved on in free agency. Serge Ibaka moved on in free agency. It only took us until February of this year in order to replace them, finally bringing in a big in Jacob Gramegna. Kawhi Leonard left in free agency. Danny Green left in free agency. And it kind of feels like we still haven't replaced what those guys brought. A lot harder to replace the talent of Kawhi Leonard. But just the point is, a lot of the key assets of that championship run, that championship team, left for absolutely nothing. We didn't get anything in return, and we struggled mightily to replace those players, and it's been a grind trying to replace those players. And Fred VanVleet, there is a big potential that he could be the latest one to leave for free and leave us with a little bit of a hole that's difficult to replace. We just saw, as I mentioned, the first domino to fall of free agency, as Fred VanVleet has rejected his player option for this season worth around $23 million. So the Raptors, wanting to make sure that another player doesn't leave for free, what are their options here, and what does this mean? Well, when Woj dropped this absolute Woj bomb yesterday, I quickly scurried over to my phone. I have Woj notifications on Twitter. I quickly went over to my phone and looked at it because it contained a Toronto Raptors name in a Woj tweet. So I was like, oh my goodness, what did we do? And I looked at it, and it was Fred VanVleet rejecting his player option. And ensuing was a bit of panic among Raptors fans online. But for me, Woj was really gassing this one up for his followers or something, because I could have told you when Fred VanVleet signed this contract in the summer of 2020. Like, I remember sitting in my school residence when I was living at school, making a video talking about Fred VanVleet signing that contract, saying it was okay, a little bit pricey, but he's probably going to be worth that contract as he continues to play and as the cap continues to go up. And that player option that is in 3 years, he's probably not going to take at that point. I could have told you 3 years ago Fred VanVleet was not going to take that player option. And I sure as hell could have told you at the start of the season, Fred VanVleet was not going to take that player option. This guy is an all-star. He's been an NBA champion, so he doesn't really need to concern himself with getting the extra valuation or playing a little bit longer. He wants to lock in his money this summer. He's coming off of a subdued season for sure, but there are a number of teams that could use his talent, that have cap space and have the ability to make sign-in trades that he should be looking at. And he also will 100% be considering a return to the Toronto Raptors. So, Fred VanVleet rejecting his player option, what does this mean for the Raptors? How does this change things? Well, it's a pretty simple answer to that question. Nothing changes. As I said, we knew he was going to reject his player option. We were preparing for the event in which he would reject his player option. I don't think there was any preparation in place or any dialogue. There was no dialogue on this channel, but there was definitely very minimal preparation in place from the Raptors front office in the event Fred VanVleet did take on this player option, did take on the $22.8 million for next season. Fred VanVleet is going to get more than that in his first year after free agency, and he's going to have a longer contract than that. I imagine Fred VanVleet is going to get somewhere in the range of 3+1, and as I've said many times in this channel, whether you agree with me or not, he's likely going to get in the range of $30 million. There are teams that are going to be willing to pay him that, and I think the Raptors are going to be one of them that is willing to pay him that. He's going to get in the range of that. Is he worth $30 million? He's probably worth from a talent perspective, considering the fact that he's been making $20 to $22 million over his contract with the Raptors so far. He's gotten better in that time. I mean, he had a subdued season, but look where he was in 2020. Since then, he's been an all-star. He's grown as a player. He's grown as a point guard. He's a better player than that, so that brings him up to $25 million. The talent level Fred VanVleet possesses probably puts him at about $25 million. Then you factor in he's a free agent. There's going to be teams competing to bring him in, and if the Raptors are the team to sign him, they have his bird rights. They can go a little bit over the cap and not pay any tax on Fred VanVleet's contract. Other teams as well will be looking at sign and trade opportunities where that also is the same thing. They will be able to have Fred VanVleet's bird rights if they do a sign and trade with the Raptors. And just, there's not a lot of great point guards out there. There's not a lot of great point guard free agents out there, especially ones that can run the pick and roll so effectively like Fred VanVleet and have the jump shot to go with it. That's going to bring him up to a $30 million when you also consider how dramatically the cap is going to increase over the next few years. You might think that's a lot of money, and it is, but in a few years' time, we're going to be looking at it like it's not a crazy amount of money if he keeps consistent with any sort of resemblance of the level that he's currently at, and I feel like his three-point percentage is going to go back up next season when he's playing in a much more fluid offense, whether that's with the Raptors or whether that is with another team. So as far as the entire situation goes, things remain exactly the same. We knew he was going to reject this contract, but still, what are the options that the Toronto Raptors can explore with the player? Well, first of all, the Raptors could decide that they do want to run it back with this core. They've brought in Darko Rajakovic, who is a much more developmentally driven coach, but he is definitely a coach as well that knows how to run a very intricate and tactical offense. And I think he would relish the opportunity to work with Fred VanVleet in the point guard position running the pick and rolls. With an excellent screen setter like Jakob Poeltl at his side, this is a duo that worked extremely well and extremely efficiently in the pick and roll last season when they were playing together. We spoke about it in yesterday's video, and I spoke about the prospect of them working together, but Fred VanVleet, when he ran pick and rolls with Jakob Poeltl, that generated 1.34 points per possession for the Toronto Raptors. If you're unfamiliar with typical point per possession statistics, 1.34 is very good. So the team was very good when they ran the pick and roll. And likely with Darko Rajakovic, they're going to be running that even more, and perhaps they will work on it even more, which can make it an even better asset for the team. If you add in movement shooters on the outside of that as well, it could make it even more efficient. So there's a great prospect to work with Fred VanVleet with the Toronto Raptors for the foreseeable future. Also, by keeping Fred VanVleet, you keep your option open of being able to trade him down the line because you don't want to lose, again, one of your assets for free. But if the Raptors are dead set on not running it back with this core, there is an opportunity to make a sign and trade with Fred VanVleet for a team that is more desperate to bring in a point guard but doesn't have the cap space in order to make that happen. We've spoken about on this channel the opportunity to make a sign and trade potentially with the Phoenix Suns, although there really isn't many interesting assets the Phoenix Suns would be able to throw our way other than Chris Paul, but you could definitely argue he's not a very interesting asset for them to throw our way. I don't really want to pay Chris Paul $30 million next season. He's no longer a $30 million player. He's an NBA player, but he's definitely not a $30 million player. Nowhere near that. He's probably a $15 million player. I think that's more than fine for what Chris Paul can do. Other sign and trade candidates would include teams like the Los Angeles Clippers, who really need a point guard for that team. Other teams include the Minnesota Timberwolves, who could be looking to add a little bit of a spike to their offense, a little bit of spike to their shooting for next season and spacing as they look to figure out this whole situation they've conjured up here with Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert playing in the same teams and not having the draft assets for the future because they lost it all gambling on that Rudy Gobert deal. So sign and trade opportunities are going to be there. Once again, for sign and trade opportunities, I'm going to reiterate my stance here. Yes, there are teams that could sign him outright, but for a lot of these competitive teams, they either don't have the cap space to do it, need to free up cap space to sign the player, or they want the bird rights that Fred VanVleet has so they can go over the cap with Fred VanVleet and not pay any penalty in the tax. That's a big deal. The tax, the more you go into the tax, it's exponential how much of a penalty the owner has to pay. So it is worth it for teams to make the sign and trade to acquire the player because of the cap space reasons and for the tax reasons. So sign and trade is going to be on the table still for the Raptors in this Fred VanVleet discussion. But there is also the impending threat of Fred VanVleet leaving for free, and this would be the disaster situation. Even if you're dead set on the Raptors bailing on Fred VanVleet, I know there's a lot of you watching this, if you made it this far after oh my goodness, I actually praised a really good basketball player. If you've made it this far and you are dead set on the Raptors losing Fred VanVleet, first of all, I commend you. But let's talk about the doom and gloom possibility where Fred VanVleet leaves for free, because keeping him and having that ability to use him this season and trade him down the line is much better than losing him for nothing right now. The teams that have cap space and seem to have a little bit of interest in Fred VanVleet are the Orlando Magic and the Houston Rockets. Now, the good thing about this situation, Fred VanVleet's a competitor. He's a winner. I don't think he wants to work with a project like those two teams. Those aren't big threats. The Philadelphia 76ers remain firmly in the mix for Fred VanVleet as well. Maybe he can join forces with his former coach Nick Nurse. If James Harden is to leave the team in free agency, then they could have enough cap space to sign Fred VanVleet outright. But they're a team that does operate over the tax, near the tax, so they could also be in the mix for a sign and trade. But another big threat has kind of entered the chat here. The Los Angeles Lakers, I kind of went over the numbers. They're going to be freeing up quite a bit of cap space this summer. And if Austin Reeves goes somewhere else and they want to pay Fred VanVleet instead, I think Fred VanVleet is a great fit next to LeBron, a combo guard who can space the floor, who can handle the ball, alleviate some of the pressure on LeBron from a ball handling standpoint, and can space the floor extremely well as his shooting, taking 8 to 10 3-pointers a game, shooting them efficiently, usually. That's a great fit for the Lakers, and they could consider adding in Fred VanVleet as well. They could still, for tax implications, for cap implications, try to make a sign and trade happen so that they can obtain those bird rights for Fred VanVleet, but it's not a complete guarantee that they are going to be able to do that they're going to even want to do that. So maybe for the Lakers, signing him outright makes more sense. So there's a wide range of possibilities for Fred VanVleet. He could stay, could get signed and traded, could leave for free. I mean, at this point, I'd say it's probably around a 50% chance that he stays. After the Darko Rajakovic, maybe that goes down to a little bit to 40. Let's say it's a 40% chance that he stays. And for the rest of it, let's give it a 35% chance that he's signed and traded. And let's say it's 25% chance that he leaves for free. That would be my best guess, but when it comes to Masai Ujiri, we simply never know. But as far as him rejecting his player option, it's news, but again, it doesn't change anything. What do you guys make of this Fred VanVleet situation? Where do you think he's going to go in the offseason? Do you think he's going to stay? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports for more videos like this. Tons of videos coming in next week. You don't want to miss out. Hit that notification bell as well, and I'll see you again next time for another video.